Welcome to my second session on the play, The Watchman of the Lake. In my last session, I had discussed three scenes of this one act play. Scene 1, wherein we had Mara and the village headman and some of the workers, and the discussion between Mara and headman mainly. In the second scene, we had seen Mara meeting the king on the road when the king arrives in that village. And in the third scene, we have seen Mara as a watchman, how he is performing his duty. And towards the end of the scene 3, we had a faint sign of some befalling calamity. The color of the sky was changing, the color of the water was changing from sapphire like color to a reddish, a muddy color, and we had guessed that something is to befall, something is to or some calamity is to befall on the place or on Mara or on the villagers or something. But we did not have a clear-cut idea what it may be or what it will be. So in the fourth scene, we come across what happens there, or what is the sign of that changing color of the sky, changing color of the lake was, what it suggested. We come to know here now in the fourth scene. I hope all of you have understood all the first three scenes of this play. As I told you, a play by an Indian writer. It is, the language is very simple and it is not very difficult for you. Even the Kannada medium students also can grasp the meaning on listening to this video. You can easily grasp what is narrated there, or as you go dialogue wise in your textbook. So, shall we now move to the fourth scene? So in every scene, I have told you where the scene is laid, or what is the setting of the play. So in the first two cases, it was the roadside. On the third scene, it was by the side of the lake or in front of Mara's hut. Now here in the fourth scene, we find the scene laid at the king's palace. And on raising the curtain, what we hear first there is the insistently ringing of the bell at the palace gate. You are the students of history, or you have studied about the palaces, the forts, or if not studied in the history, or if not seen or visualized those things, maybe in some historical serials on Ashoka or Rana Pratap and other things. You have come to know the atmosphere or the area of a palace, how it is. So usually at the palace entrance, at the main gate, there would be one huge bell, and that bell is for the subjects, for the citizens who want to meet the king. They are to ring that bell, and then the message is sent that somebody is waiting outside, and the guards will come and open the door, and they will take in the person, the visitor who has arrived there. Now here when the curtain is raised in the fourth scene, we find we hear the insistent ringing of bell of the palace entrance, and the period is midnight, we can say, and that too very stormy night. There is a torrential downpour outside, and in that torrential downpour, in such a stormy, terrible night of the storm, some person has arrived at the king's palace and he is insistently ringing the bell, meant that he wants to meet the king urgently. So he is in some emergency and he wants to meet the king. On hearing this sound, the king ask his guards to go and open the gate and see who wants to meet me at this hour of the terrible night. So maybe some emergency, otherwise who might have dared to come out in such a horrible night, a night when even the wild animals fear to go out of their hiding places. Such was the horrible night, and in such a night a person is ringing a bell means there must be some emergency, go and open the gate. The king directs his guards to go and open the gate. And after some time we hear on the stage the footsteps of some people arriving at the king. The king is standing there, and we hear the footsteps of some people who are moving towards the king, and the ringing of the bell has already stopped now. The person arrives, and the king asks the man, who are you and what brings you here in my presence at this hour of this terrible night? So what is the reason, and who are you? Then the person says, Your Majesty, I am Mara, the watchman of the lake. And the king is shocked to see Mara at this hour. And the king also fails to recognize him because he is fully drenched in rain, and even his hair is sticking on the on the face. It is plastered. The hair has completely plastered his face, and the water is dripping from his dress. And the king really fails to recognize Mara. And when he says that I am Mara the watchman, now king recognizes him, and he asks Mara, what brings you here at this moment or at this hour of the night? Then Mara is gasping his breath. He is not in a position to take a normal breath. He is panting. He is taking a long breath. One, because he has come running all the way from his lake to the king's palace. One reason. And second thing is the news that he has brought to the king is equally horrible. And controlling himself, he says, I want to tell you something about the lake. But he can't complete the sentence. What is wrong with the lake? He can't complete. He stops. Lake, I want to say something about the lake, he says. Then the king says, what happened to the lake? What is wrong with the lake? Proceed. Then Mara says, there is some danger. The lake is about to break. It is about to breach. The water level has reached the maximum point, only an inch below, we can say. And within a fraction of some moments, the water is to overflow the lake, and we are going to be doomed by this. On hearing this, the king can't believe his ears. He says, Mara, are you out of senses? Do you know what you are telling? Because the breaching of the lake means end of all of us. The end of the total kingdom. Because if the boundaries of the lake are let loose, or if they are broken, then it is going to swallow the hundreds of villages and towns, and which are located on the region from where the water used to flow in the past. And now that the stored water is let loose once again, then all the villages, all the towns, including the king's palace, is to be doomed, is to be flooded. So that will the end of the lives of all. So the king once again reminds Mara. He tries to bring him into senses. He says, are you out of sense? Have you gone mad? Do you know what you are saying? The lake is going to break. It only means that we are going to be doomed. So there is likely to be a flood. Then Mara says, I am not lying. Taking the oath of my family, taking the oath on my son and my wife, I say whatever I am telling you is the truth. Really, the lake is going to break away. Then he now narrates everything to the king. He says, yesterday or today evening, by evening or till evening, everything was all right. The sky was crystal clear, and the lake reflected the blue sky. The water, the color of the water was sapphire like, it was completely blue. But at the dusk period, slowly the water was mudding, and even the sky also changed its shapes, and there were the clouds forming in the sky, and it was a sign of some danger ahead. And I thought that there would be heavy rainfall or there would be storm, and afraid of that, I took my son and I went inside my house, and both of us, we went to sleep. At midnight, I was awakened by the very violent storm which was striking at my hut's door, and I was awakened by that sound of that storm. And when I opened the door and when I came out, I could not believe my eyes, because the lake had come to the brim. The waters of the lake had come, it has reached to the highest level. And before I could think anything about this, or before I could think as to what to do about that, I was afraid. I don't know what to do. And I just prayed God to save us from this crisis. And there appeared before me the river goddess Veda, which all the time appeared in my dreams in the past so many times. The same goddess appeared now in front of my eyes, not in the dream, but actually in the real person. She appeared before my eyes. She stood before me. On seeing her, I covered myself, and she raised me up. And this time she was in such a violent mood. There was not a kind of a gentle or divine look on her face. This time she was very ferocious. Her eyes and even her total appearance was so fierce, and she was in a very destructive mood, and she was holding a sword in her hand. And she told me that she is now in a mood to flow away. She wanted the way to be cleared by breaking the boundaries of the lake. She told me that she is in a mood of flowing away, in a mood of roaming freely, and she did not want any kind of blockages like this. And she asked me to break the embankment and set free the waters. And I was shocked by her statement, and I narrated to her what would be the condition of people in case if we break the boundaries of the lake. I brought to her notice that the lake itself was built on her command. It is because she wished the water of the lake to be stored in the form of a lake. We built this lake. I reminded her of her old wish. I also reminded her that today so many villages and towns are settled along the path of the river flow, and now if the waters are set free, then all the villages will be flooded, all the towns will be flooded. Even I narrated this practical situation to her. But she is in no mood to listen to my words. She is in a complete destructive mood, and she is not at all going to be convinced by my words. And then finally I requested her that I convey this message to the king and I come back, and till then I requested her to hold her sword and wait for breaking the embankment of the lake. So don't destroy, don't flow away, or don't set free the waters till I return there, conveying the message to the king. And she promised me, she told me that I will wait till you return from the king, informing the king about the upcoming disaster. Till then I will wait here, and she has promised me, and that is why I have come here rushing like this, or running away non-stop, even though it is not possible to run in this wild storm. Now it is the turn of the king to think over as to what to do. Now he asked Mara himself, Mara, what to do now? I can't see anything. I don't find any solution which we can take as a measure to stop. So I don't find any solution for this problem. I think our doom has arrived. So he said, now there is going to be a deluge. You might have heard this word, deluge, pralaya. In Kannada we say, we had desperately waited for this kind of a thing in 2012. I hope even you were waiting for this, but nothing such happened. Okay, so the king says, maybe we are going to be blown away by these river waters, and this is the end of all of us. And now he sends message for the guards and to make an announcement in the whole kingdom that this night is going to be the last night in their lives, and tomorrow the sun will rise on a lifeless area, or the lifeless region. The tomorrow's sun will be rising. He asked his guards to make this announcement throughout his kingdom, so that the people get ready for this deluge. And now Mara says, I have a suggestion. Your Majesty, if you permit me, if you allow me, then I have a solution for this problem. We can save ourselves from this kind of an impending danger, or the danger that is to befall us or our kingdom. Then the king cannot believe Mara's words. How are you going to save us? How are you going to stop this kind of a disaster which has almost arrived at our doorstep? So how can you save us from this? So it is highly impossible. Then Mara says, no, there is one solution. What is the promise given by the goddess? She will not break the boundaries with her sword till Mara returns. So till Mara informs the calamity, or informs the situation to the king, and returns to the goddess again to the area of the lake. Now Mara says that she will keep her promise up. So now why not create a situation wherein I cannot go back to the goddess? The king cannot understand this. Can you guess how to make such a situation that Mara cannot go back to the goddess, and she will not break through, or she will not break the boundaries of the lake if Mara does not return there? How is it possible? The king does not know how is it possible. He cannot understand the hidden meaning of what Mara is saying. Then he says, Mara, how is it possible? How can I make that you cannot go back, or you cannot return to the goddess? And how can we avoid this kind of a disaster? How can we stop her from breaking the boundaries? Then Mara says, it is easy. Your sword is there. What is meant by your sword is there? So he is conveying a message to the king to behead him, to kill him with the king's sword, so that Mara will never return to his hut, and in that case, to keep the promise, the goddess will never use her sword, and she will never break the boundaries of the lake. So please cut my head, please behead me with your sword, and create such a situation that I don't go back, I cannot return back to the area of the lake, and by doing so, the whole kingdom will be saved. Not just the lake, but hundreds of villages, the number of towns, and the whole of your kingdom will be saved. The king says, no, it's impossible. I can't do such a harmful act, because you are such a noble man, and I can't do such a heinous act, such an inhuman act. So I can't do that. Then this watchman Mara says, if you can't do, you ask your guards, you ask your soldiers to execute me, so that by sacrificing my life, I will be able to, or we all will be able to save not only the lake but the whole kingdom and all the villages which are located on the path of this stream. So the whole the kingdom will be saved. The king is not ready, but Mara is not ready to change his will or change his intention. He further adds, he says, he tells the king, before my end, before doing any such action, or before I martyr myself for the cause, before I get beheaded, I want to tell me or express one wish, and my last wish is that after me, let my son become the watchman of the lake, and after him let his son. So like this, let the post of the watchman be hereditary, and let that post be retained to my family. That is my last wish. Now whether the king executes Mara, or Mara himself beheads himself or ends his life by some measures, we are not told in the fourth scene. So here ends the fourth scene with Mara's request to kill him. He wishes to martyr himself, and by doing so he wants to save the lake as well as the people and the villages or the towns or the total kingdom of the king. He wants to save by sacrificing his life. You might have heard of a Sanskrita shloka, a very primitive shloka. Tyaje dekam kulasyarthe, gramarthe kulam tyajet, gramam janapadasyarthe, swatmarthe prithvim tyajet. Have you heard of your elders telling it, repeating it many times in the house? So what it means? Tyaje dekam kulasyarthe. For the sake of one family, one person should be ready to sacrifice his life. Gramarthe kulam tyajit. For the sake of the village, the whole family should be ready for the sacrifice. And gramam janapadasyarthi. For the sake of the country, the whole village should be ready for sacrifice. And swatmarthe prithvim tyajit. For attaining moksha or salvation, we should be able to, or we should be ready to renounce the whole world, everything belonging to this earth. So this is what that primitive shloka says. And here Mara seems to follow on the line of this Sanskrita shloka. So, for the sake of his village, Tyaje Dekam, one's life, the life of Mara, Tejed Ekam, Kulasyartha, not for just his family, but here for his whole village, for his whole kingdom. He is getting himself ready for the sacrifice. Now, whether he is killed or he killed himself or he ended his life himself, we don't know. But what we notice here is that, see how selfless and how we can see a person who lived for the sake of others or who lived for the higher goals is this Mara. The person who is called by such negative adjectives as madman, worthless man, and that man now in the time of crisis is ready to sacrifice his whole life. See, we remember the only son he has, Ganga, is sleeping in his hut, and his wife is somewhere away from the village, because when the visitor has arrived, I had told you there is nothing very delicious in my hut, he had told that visitor, because my wife is away, so I can offer whatever I have cooked for myself and for my son. So and that is enough for you to satisfy your hunger, he has told. So in the hut there is no one, only his son is sleeping there in the hut, and yet even though his son is there alone, without thinking about his son or his family or anything, he says that let my life be sacrificed for the cause, and let the kingdom be saved from this. In the fifth scene, we see when the curtain rises, we find a person who is near the lake, where there is a small shrine situated by the side of the lake, and near that shrine is the man standing, and this man now standing is not Mara. In the scene 5, Mara is not there, we see Ganga. He is ready to offer the prayers in the shrine which is located nearby, and he is shouting for his son who is playing nearby. In the third scene, we had seen Mara was sitting near his hut which is located by the side of the lake, and he was shouting for his son, and he was narrating him the responsibilities of a watchman after him. So when he will be the watchman, when Ganga will be the watchman, what he has to do, he was narrating his son who was very childish or childlike, who was not very responsible. So he was telling them all those duties. Now this Ganga, so the one generation has rolled on, and now this Ganga we see, he is near the shrine. Shrine means gudi, small temple like thing. Okay, he is near the shrine, and he is shouting for his son who is playing there nearby. And when he comes running, Ganga shouts at his son, and he says that, don't you know that it is time for the prayer? So today is the day of the prayer, and you should not be very careless like this. Then the boy says, no, sorry father, I forgot. And for that Ganga says, you should be very responsible in the days to come, because when I took the charge of this lake, I was even younger than what your age is now. And the early morning, when I got up, what I saw was my hut was blown away. My father was not seen anywhere. My mother was already away from the place, and whom I saw early morning when I opened my eyes was the king. King was there. He asked me to do the duties of my father, and I was taken later as the charge of the lake as the watchman. And since then I have been performing this duty of a watchman. And you should be very cautious, you should be very responsible, and you should not forget these things, or these prayers and all this worship and all those things, because the two statues or the two idols you see which are installed in this shrine, on the upper position we see the idol of the goddess, the guardian goddess, that is the river Veda, or the guardian goddess Veda. And on the lower pedestal you see the idol of your grandfather, who has sacrificed his life to save this lake and to save all of our lives. So when our father has done such a huge sacrifice, so we should not fail to show our reverence for such a great soul. So in the future days, you should never be careless about these prayers. See, according to the king's command, the prayers are offered in this shrine every Tuesday and Friday, and people from far off lands, they come here to attend this prayer, because they have so much of regard for Mara, who sacrificed his life for the sake of this lake. And as such, being a grandson, you should be very mindful, very careful, very cautious about these formalities, what we say, or these kind of offerings. So don't be careless, and come, let us now offer the prayers. And here ends the play. So what we learn in the fifth scene? in the at the end of the fourth scene, we have seen that Mara has expressed his last wish and he had asked the king to behead him. Now we were not told whether the king beheads Mara or whether Mara kills himself. We were not told anything. But in the next scene, in the fifth scene, through the mouth of Ganga, we come to know that early morning of that night, that horrible night, when he got up, when he was sleeping in the hut, and when he got up, what he saw early in the morning was the hut was blown away, and whom he saw, or the first person he saw early in the morning was king, and the king asked him to do the final duties of the father. So that only means that Mara has sacrificed his life. Maybe he was beheaded or executed by somebody. It is left to us to think whether Mara killed himself. But anyhow, the king is aware of the tragedy. That is why early morning the king has arrived at the hut of Mara, and he has taken the responsibility of his son and also guided him till he takes the full charge of his father. So we find how noble is Mara here. Now the story ends, of course. Now the question, the most important question to you is, why this story is added in your syllabus? Are you going to build the lakes? Or are you the people who are spoiling the lakes? Yes, exactly. The second option you can't deny. You may not be building the lake, but certainly you are polluting, you are wasting the water of lakes or streams for the sake of your enjoyment. You go for a picnic and you take as much of plastic things and dump all those bottles and plastic bags in spite of the rule against the use of plastic. You very freely throw them without any care, without any concern, as if it is none of your business. You throw those waste away in the lakes, in the ponds, and you come, you return. You are not at all aware of the fact that this very act of your carelessness is going to put yourself in the crisis in the future years. Now that you are free, and whenever you have time, enough time, just go around your house or your college, and you will find a number of streams. Now that we are towards the end of the rainy season, the streams have not completely dried up. Okay, but just go and see, just watch so many beautiful streams with such a clear water, they are flowing. But along with the flow of the water, or along the banks of those streams, we find the heaps of plastics piled there. Agree with me? I am really hurt when I saw such places being destroyed like this, being wasted by dumping the waste or plastic in this manner, or by leaving some effluents there in the lakes and ponds. And especially when I read this story, this watchman of the lake, I have become even more conscious about the water bodies. See, every experts are now telling that the next war, if at all it takes place, it will be for the sake of water, they say. And many geological surveys have announced that the groundwater level, the water table is going down to such a drastic level, to such a drastic low level, that many of the major cities of India will be turned useless after a decade or two. But no one is ready to listen to this. Still we are wasting the huge, even the vast lakes in Bangalore. This being a YouTube video, I would not like to mention any names, but in Bangalore there are so many lakes which are spoilt by the waste from the factories, and there is so much of foams on in that particular lake. And there are so many MNC companies who are coming ahead to take up this cleaning project. Now the question is, why to undertake the cleaning up project after wasting? We can prevent the wasting of the water bodies. It is a better suggestion, it is a better motive I feel, because first wasting and then renovating the lakes or the water bodies, it is a waste of money. Okay, and many NGOs today have taken up this mission of cleaning so many ponds, especially the ponds or the lakes near the temples. They are cleaning it, they are desilting and making it, or making every possible thing to encourage the water storage there. But we still, many of us, only a handful of us are cautious and undertaking such missions of cleaning the lakes. But majority of us, the common man, 90% of us are, what we are doing? We are careless, we are dumping the waste in the water bodies, and we are making our every effort to destroy the water bodies as early as possible. So this must be stopped, and that is the main intention of including this lesson, this drama in your syllabus. And moreover, even this drama was written, or R.K. Narayan was asked to write this drama by the tourism department, just for the sake of creating awareness about the water harvesting or water conservation. So even the purpose of making the dramatist write this particular drama was to make the awareness about the water conservation. See, you might have heard of Kame Gowda. Even our Prime Minister has mentioned his name in his one of the Man Ki Baat. Even one article I had written in one of the dailies. So he is a man from Mandya. He has received so many awards today, Basavashri Award, then Rajyotsava Award, and so many awards. So he is an octogenarian, some 80 plus man he is. But 40 years of his life he has spent, and 40 years of his earnings, some 10 to 15 lakhs, even the money which he has earned from the awards, he has spent everything on construction of the lakes, and so far he has constructed some 14 lakes in Mandya district, Mandya's Malavalli Taluk. There is one more lady, Amla Ruiya. She is settled in Bombay. She is well to do. She is not poor like our Kame Gowda, but motivated by the constant famine of Rajasthan, she has taken a drive to build the check dams in Rajasthan, Orissa, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra, and so far she has built some 350 check dams, and by the time she departs from this world, she says, I would like to complete some 3,000 check dams. For building one check dam, she has to spend some 20 or 25 lakhs. But still she says that by the end of my life, I should complete some 3,000 check dams. Now where the money comes? From the like-minded people, by founding one organization, Akar Foundation. He is building this kind of a check dam, and as a result, she has turned out that drought hit area into a complete rich, wealthy crop yielding region of Rajasthan, especially, which is the native of her in-laws. Means not hers, but her father-in-law, means her husband is from that region. So the project was began first in Rajasthan. So there are a handful of such people, and we have to follow, or we have to go in the models of these people. If not, we can't build the new lakes. Let us save the existing lakes, the existing wells or ponds or streams, whatever we come across in our lives, because once destroyed or once the water scarcity arrives, we will not be able to find any solution for that. So this is the reason why it is included in your text. Now, would you like me to tell you about questions and answers in this I hope by now you have a thorough idea as to how the questions are asked in your textual units. In the first lesson I had told you in like the core subjects like your other arts, science or commerce course, especially arts and commerce, for them the questions are mainly asked from the exercises, but here we ask the question from any corner. Now as regards this lesson, I would like to tell you long questions which may be asked on this lesson would be Mara and Headman's interaction. What was the discussion that was going on between Mara and Headman, or why Headman was angry with Mara? One long question may be asked. Okay, Mara's dream. What appeared in Mara's dream, or whom Mara visualized in his dream, or what command the goddess gave Mara in his dream. So Mara's dream, another important question. Then the sacred spot about which Mara narrates to the king, that is another one. Then Mara's meeting with the king when he jumps from the tree and meets the king and expresses his will or the goddess command to the king. So that is another long question on this particular lesson. Then Mara as a watchman, yes, another very important question. Mara as a watchman, how he helped the visitor, how he took that fisherman to task. So these will be the other questions. Then the Mara meeting the goddess in the ferocious form. So that will be the another question. You just go on and search these questions whether they are in the comprehensions. You may not be able to find, but that is what I am stressing again and again. If you grasp the thing properly, no problem for you to understand or to write any question on this unit. Likewise, the 1 mark question from the beginning, where we see the headman directing the workers to swing their arms fast till the end when the prayers are offered to the shrine. Any question will be asked. When are the idols offered prayer? So that will be the question. Then why is the headman in a hurry? Who is the strongest worker? What did Bhima drink as a child? So these are the variety of questions that can be asked on this particular unit. One more doubt. I don't know how many of you would like me to express this or not. So I would like to clear one doubt of you which I have been observing in your comments expressed towards the end of these videos, the comments that come below the video, and there I have been observing, and even in the 2 or 3 days back also some students have mentioned, Madam, please repeat what you are telling in English. So if you really believe in my words, then please listen to the suggestions I give you. Okay, you listen to these suggestions even with more attention than you have watched this video so far. The first thing I would like to tell you is, if you really wish to write in the exam successfully, if you really want to interact with your friends, with your teachers during your higher studies in English, then please stick to English explanation. Don't ask for Kannada explanation of the English units, because in this profession since 23 years, okay, I have experimented a number of methods. English to English, English to Kannada, Kannada English mixing, translation, and on experimenting all these, I have come to the conclusion that unless we teach you English in English language, you are not able to succeed in your examination when it comes to writing. 1 point. Second one, I am myself from Kannada medium. Up to 10th standard I have studied in Kannada medium, and the colleges where I have taught so far or where I teach now, Okay, in all those colleges the students are from Kannada medium, moreover they are from rural background, and most of them are the first generation educated in the family. Still I stick to English. You can ask my students. I explain them in English. If they don't understand, I re-explain them. I repeat the explanation, but I advise them to stick to English, and that certainly helps you in your examination. Third point, one question to you. Okay, when the electronic goods are brought in your house, or some electronic gadgets like mobile or tablet or anything such are brought in your house, it is you, the kids, who guide your adults, your elders in the family, how to use it. You know, you go through the instruction manual, you go through the commands given in that particular thing, electronic good, and then you guide your elders in the family of its use. Now all those commands, all those instruction manuals are in English. Nobody translates you, but still you understand it, you comprehend it, you master that. And take example of social media. You are so active of some of the apps which we are totally in dark. WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so many countless online games. You are the masters there, isn't it? But nobody explains you all those things or commands in English, sorry, in Kannada. Yet you have a full mastery over those things. Now when it comes to English class, why it is a difficulty to understand such a stories, a simple stories in English? Because you have a pseudophobia about English, that I can't understand English if it is taught in English, so I want Kannada explanation. Of course Kannada explanation helps you understand the story, but it won't help you write the exams. Got the point? So remove that phobia from your mind. Your mind chip is so powerful. It is more powerful than any supercomputer. So make use of that infinite potential in your mind and try to master the language and understand this language in your language. It's in English language itself. That is what again and again I am stressing. And still, if you can't remove that phobia, I suggest you one poem, Crutches by Brecht. It is there in second year workbook also. If you don't find that workbook, you can after watching this video, you can go through in the Google and get that poem. You just read. There is one man who had some fracture in his leg. He undergoes a treatment, but during the course of the treatment, he was advised to use the crutches. After he is cured and doctor advised him not to use the crutches here onwards in the future. But he is so adapted to the crutches. Crutches means the things the limping man uses. Kankuladalli haki naditare nodi. So he still uses that crutches, and to such a long period he moves with that crutches. For 6 or 7 years he uses that crutches, and after 7 years, when the physician who treated him comes to know that the patient is still using the crutches, he gets angry, he breaks those crutches and throws away. And then the person comes to know, he realizes the ability, the capacity of his leg, and he finds that, so what a fool I was that I used the crutches all these years. Same is the case with you when you demand Kannada explanation for English lessons. Okay, so I don't expect even a single comment from you in my these videos demanding the explanation in Kannada. Just try and see what a miracle you can make. Okay, so it is not a warning like, but it is only suggestion I am giving you, and I promise you it will click. I assure you it will click. So I hope this is the time to end the session. So thank you all for watching this video. Make best use of these videos. If you don't understand the English version or the English explanation, being the recorded videos, you go through these again and again. until you understand it completely. At the same time, read the text also, and wish you all good luck in your exams. Thank you.